Hello, welcome to DiamondDel with We are playing with resin today. Now I've got that skull mould. I was going to say something there, but I didn't know what to say. This is the skull mould I unboxed on the channel, and it is from Let's Resin. It came as such with 1, 2, 3, 4 little teeny tiny baby skull molds as well, which I may just use with whatever resin I have mixed left over, because no doubt I will bugger it up and have leftover mixed up and it can just go in there. So that's plan B basically. I have this rather large big skull mold I'm going to play with though. This is the main project basically I am going to play with today. So having a look at this is a silicone mold. It is these dimensions I'll just put here for those that are interested. I can't remember exactly on the top of my head, so I'll just put them in that little information space there. It has supports, as you can see, on the top of his head. So that will be basically the bottom. So that's where all the resin will start. I suppose you could call it the start. So that's where my pour will begin. So I'm going to have to think what I want to have on the top of his head, because that's what I'll be pouring first. Yeah. Okie dokie. I am a novice beginner. This is very much an experimental video once again. I like making experimental videos. It's a lot of fun for everyone, isn't it? Let's just get stuck in. Okay, so I've got basically this is just a silicone mat that I got in that kit that I showed you guys. This is a great idea if you like the surface you're working on. Basically, for me, this table, I don't care what happens to it. So yeah, but it does make cleanup a lot easier to have something like this, because you can, yeah, basically get your bits and pieces off there easier, I have found, including hair, which seems to navigate. Anyway, so this is the mold I'm going to be using. This is quite a big, this is huge. I've gone from teeny tiny little jewelry molds straight up to something huge. So that's probably not the smartest thing to do when you are a beginner. Do not follow my example, probably. Anyway, let's get stuck in. This is Platinum Premium Epoxy, which is the resin I'll use today in my video. This is a 2-part resin. It's A and B, so I will be mixing this at a 2-to-1 pot ratio. There we go, whatever it is. So there you go. Mixed ratio is 2-to-1, pot life 1 to 2 hours. Okay, initial cure is a 5 to 18 hour cure, a full cure of 24 hours, based on 100 ml mix. Okay, so there we go. That's all the info on that one. Now I've got all my tools and bits and pieces in this little, excuse me, move a minute, in here. So I've got lots of little goodies. I've got little silicone cups and all those things that I unboxed and so forth. So I will get all those guys out, so then we can use these to mix up a couple, golly gosh, come out of there, of the colors like I've done in the past. Oops, tweezers. I have my scales in here. I have all little bits and pieces, trying to keep it all together. And I'm cleaning out a little drawer and got them all sort of keeping everything all together. I've got a couple of sets of gloves. I will be using gloves today. I know that much. It's too sticky. I've got some of these foil leaves. I got these ones just at like Kmart. So I'm thinking I might get into that gold and pop some of that in this one. Some stirring ones there that I got and so forth. So there's lots of fun things in here as well. These are little disposable basically cups, which I think they might just stay out too. These are some pastel colors I've got. Not so much of a fan. And I might, ooh, these are kind of cute. These are some of the heavy sort of type flakes, so they might be useful too. So they can just hang out, just in case I decide to whack some of them in there. They are a bit heavy and not light floating like the flakes, so I'm not sure yet because they might drift down too far, and I might like that idea. Where are you? Also in this little fun box of tricks are these little holographic type light flakes. So I might keep them because I think they will be kind of cool to mix in there as well. Alrighty. I've got, I might leave them out too because they might be good to pop some bubbles and so forth. What else is in here that is probably useful? Teeny tiny measuring cups. I've got some of those little Pokepora thingies. Don't need the drill, don't need a spoon, don't need any of all that stuff just at the moment. So that can just go to the side. I think I've got all my little bits and cups and things. Now I've decided I like both of these powders at the moment, so I'll probably just use one in the actual skull, big skull that is. So there's the blue green and the red blue purple. So I don't know why I wanted to do a red and gold skull. Honestly, I thought it was really cool idea. So I think I like this one, and I might just do little blue skulls. We'll see how we go. But yeah, those are the two micro chameleon powders I thought I'd muck around with today. So we might have that one nearby. My swizzle sticks, I just chuck them in a jar. So I'll need a few of these guys as well, just some good old-fashioned mixing sticks to mix some resins. Bits and pieces. And I have got a little, what do you call these little guns things, and that's to pop some bubbles and so forth, a little bit of heat on there. All right, I think I've got my bits and pieces. Gloves, Del, put the damn gloves on. Okay, that's what I'm going to do first. Now, I'm going to use just the ones I got in the resin kit at this stage. I do have some boxes of gloves I have also purchased and that, so, but I'll use these ones because I think you can, they're quite thick and nice, and I can reuse these a few times, I think, beforehand, but the other ones are very thin and very disposable. Now the other thing I probably should have on hand, and I might go and get that actually, is, all I need is probably some soapy water, honestly, so I can put things in and wash them, and some baby wipes. Baby wipes are really good apparently to clean these things out. So yeah, that's the other little thing you do for cleanups to keep everything going well. But yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll just pause and run for that in between the whole affair. Okay, going to get the scaly cut out so that I can measure everything and start mixing, I suppose. But yeah, we'll worry about cleanup later. I'll just run off and do that. Let's see what these gloves are like. Are they too baggy? If they're too baggy, I'm going to get the other ones. They're pretty big on my hands. My hands are only small, and I can't, you know what, I can't deal with that. They're too big, they're too big. Bye. I'm going to get my other ones. So these are just vinyl, medium sized. They just fit a little bit more smoother. There we go, see? Much nicer. Much nicer. Not as baggy. Okay, gloves on first. Well ventilated area I'm in as well. I've got the window cracked open. It's cold, it's raining, it's miserable. It's day outside, so may as well be inside doing something. So, well ventilated area. I've got my gloves on. I've got my mould. It's nice and clean. Yes, looking good, looking good. All right, so I was going to measure this, and one of the ways you can do that is to use rice, apparently. pour a whole heap of rice in there and then put that into a measuring cup, and that gives you a good quantity of how much resin you should mix up. But I'm just going to wing it. Why not? Alright, so this is, I think why not? You can see I put the resin, let it run down the sides. Now I can't read the instructions properly. So stir 1 part B into 2 parts A. Part B, so I need 1 of those, 2 of those. Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to use these as little silicone muggy dugs. And what we're going to do is going to make enough to fit into there. Alrighty, let's do this. 30. I'm going to do a 30B and a 60A. See how I go. My cup's not going to have enough. Alright, 60 of this stuff. A little bit much. Oh, right on the dot of 60 grams, people. All right, that's A. How's B looking? 32. Not bad. Oh my God. To get the trusted baby wipes. It's much easier to clean things at this stage than waiting things to dry. Ookie dookie, spooky people. Going to make a lot more up and make a lot more mess, but here and now we'll make this little bit up and start the processes. Okay. Bigger jugs I could do a big mix and then separate them, but I don't want to cook my pots anyway. Okay, so I have my A and my B. A bit of crap on my scale, so I'll clean that off. Just go to the side for a minute. So now I'm going to pour that into there. And then we're going to do a lot of stirring basically. So we need to stir this stuff up slowly so we're not getting too many bubbles, and for at least 3 minutes or more to make sure it goes a nice mix until it's all nice and clear. It has a funny sort of, I don't know, goopy look goes on. So like has that water and oil connection effect goes on for a little while. So we want them to be blended all together. You see that, how they look a little bit different to each other? I want to make that nice and clear. So I'm going to keep stirring until all that cloudiness disappears. I'm going to set a timer. Do this for at least 3 minutes. Hey Siri, set a timer 3 minutes.
3 minutes starting now.
Thanks Siri. Isn't that awesome?
You're welcome.
That's my Siri. Still cloudy, so I'm going to keep stirring. Okay, so my resins are all quite mixed, but it's also got lots of micro bubbles in it, so I'm going to let it sit for 5. So I've seen in one of the tutorials, if I sit the resin for 5, it will settle. So I'm hoping that's going to do that. I'm a bit concerned because it's all still in the one pot, and I'm worried it's going to get too hot. So maybe I will separate it into some separate ones, just to be on the safe side. Now I've got these silicone ones, I could put some in that, or I've got these disposable cup pots. So even if I put some of the ones I want to mix the microcolor into those, into a little bit of 2 of those, I think might be a good idea. So I want to put some gold flakes in some of it and some microfiber, that stuff. So I'm going to pour a little bit into here. And another little bit into this pot as well. Just to experiment here. And I'm going to let that settle. At least I won't cook my resin. It won't get too hot in the pot, and hopefully those bubbles will settle. And if not, I have got my little hot devil here, and I can pop a few of them now that it's got a bit more surface area. Hopefully with that I can also disperse a few of them as well, and even then I might even just be able to dump it straight into the mold, because I do want to put, say, a section here of just clear on the top of him as for the first section of this pour. So we will see. I'm going to let that sit for a while though, I think, and then I'm going to hit it with the hot devil. Okie dokie. So I have let those, let's start again, people. I have let these pots sit for a good 5 minutes, actually a little bit more. I've gave it a little go with the hot devil. I have to be super careful with these disposables because I direct them directly up, very, very quick boost, about once or twice, and I'm not going to do it again on those ones because of these cups wanted to melt basically from the heat, even though I kept it directly in the middle. Popped a few bubbles with those, popped a few bubbles there. I still have quite a few micro bubbles in this resin, so yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'm going to proceed forward. I've actually cleaned this pot out with a baby wipe so that that one's a little bit more tidy. So I just did a bit of tidying up while I was at it. So my brain started thinking, if I can't get rid of all these little bubbles and get a nice clear top to my skull, which is what the plan was, although it's coming along pretty good now. I don't know if you can see that. I don't want to drop the damn thing, but anyway, let's just zoomy doomy. You can see it is pretty clear. It's pretty darn good, but there is some very, very fine bubbling in there. I was thinking, just to take away any chance of that awful bubbles making the top of the skull look awful. Not too many awfuls, but anyway, I thought I'll pop a bit of this holographic flakes in there, and then it would give some pretty cool colored effects anyway. So I might mix a bit of that in near the top and see how that goes. But having let them sit for that time has helped reduce some of them big bubbles, and hitting it with the flame has definitely improved that situation. All right, next step. I'm really not sure how to build this, so I'm a bit daunted and a bit all at the same time. So I'm just going to move you and you and all that stuff over there because I'm really not sure what I'm doing. Okay, you. All right, so I'm going to pop the mold here. I think you guys can see hopefully what I'm doing fairly well that way. Now I've just got some more resin in there, and I've got these two little disposable paws, which are coming along quite well as far as clarity. And my mold looks nice and clean. Now I do give it a bit of a wipe out. There is a bit of blip in there by the looks of it. Make sure, I'm fading, make sure your mold is nice and clean. You don't want any foreign nasties being in there, really, do you? Ruining the whole thing. I'll just give it a little bit of a more, and dry and clean and all that. Just make sure there's nothing in there. It looks pretty good. Fingers crossed, people, this works. Because if you're seeing this video, it worked. Anyway, so hoping I put some clear in, and maybe then I'll mix some flakes in some of the resin and pour some of that over the top, and that'll sort of give it a nice mix. All right, let's do that. Here goes nothing. Ooh, moment of truth. It's going to take a lot more resin. I'm going to have to make a lot more. I'm hoping it's not too cloudy. I mean, it looks clear in the cups. I think it's just because the mold is of that colouring. All right. So that is the first part of it. I'm going to let that be happy for a minute. Rightio. Now this little area, I'm going to put some little flakes in. Oops, you just go over there, mister. I'm not going to stir you up too much. Now this little part, where are we? Let's just move you, camera, because I think I can't get everybody in the shot here. Let's come down a bit. Here we go. So in this little clear pot, I'm going to put some of these guys just for funsies. Not really sure how many. Ooh, I reckon that would do. We'll see how that goes, shall we? Rightio. Let's put you just to the side. I'm going to try one of these stirry stick things this time. Came with my kit. A heavy spoon. Do you reckon I don't know. I'll try one of these things. I've got a pokey one. I'm going to just poke that around in there like that. Give it a stirry whirly. Ooh, wow. I'm hoping that because I put some in, this might not, I don't know how to explain it, like float like another layer a little bit. Stir it in a bit. Might need a few more flakes. I don't want it too thick of flakes. I'll be able to catch the light and look groovy at the same time. Ooh, don't knock the resin over. No, 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 I don't want it to happen. Not too much. What did I just say? Oh no, it's going to soak in. Save it. No. Not the pretty flakes. No. I should have used the tweezers. Why didn't you use the tweezers then? You silly goose. You silly goose. Oh, well, that's just... Well, okay. Del's a silly goose and should have used her tweezers. Instead, she thought she was going to be smart. So now she's going to have a very glittery skull. Oh my gosh. Look at it. Oh my goodness. Mix all that up in there. This better be pretty. I just used so much glitter. Oops. Okay. Alright. Oopsie doozle. Okay. So, it's not going to be too bad. It's not going to be too bad. I'm hoping I'm going to just really love it. Yeah, I'm just going to really love it. It's going to be so sparkly, and I'm just going to really love it. I might have to stir it into the rest of the other clear. Maybe it's going to have a really sparkly top instead. Now, the idea was to let that sort of cure a bit and then come back, but I think I might have to just plonk her on top and see what happens. Rightio. So now, as you can see, I've got a very curious looking mixture here of beautiful flakes. It looks gorgeous and sparkly though now. Look at that. Probably a bit more. I don't know if it really mattered that I did put that extra lot in. Very pretty. I think I'm going to try and run it down this nose. So it gets around the front of him a bit there. I want it around the front of the skull a bit. Oh, hello. Sorry. The action shot and I put my buff head in it, eh? Oh, no. There we go. This is the bit, I want to do it in a certain spaces, but I don't want it to plump because I don't want it to go... I don't want it to plump. I want it to smoothly go on. So I might run it down the around the stick so it doesn't plump so hard. There we go. Don't know if that's going to give me the effect I want, but it's going to happen the way it's going to happen. I want to sort of give him a brain. Of sparkle. Oh well, I think it all went down to the bottom anyway. I think what I really should have done was just mixed a bit of clear and let that goop up for half an hour, then put that other stuff on. But if I wait for half an hour, then the other stuff will be goopy too. Oh well, now it's all mixed in together, so I'm going to have a sparkly top. That's all right. We're just going to leave that for a bit longer before we mix any more stuff up. Can you see in there? Clear sparkly stuff in there now. Cool beans. All right. We've got some resin here that we'll mix up for our next step, which I'm thinking I don't know what I'm going to do now because it was going to be clear, then sparkles, then colour. And I need a lot more resin. We'll be back. Right, so what's been happening is I have actually taken that resin I poured into here out back into the cups, into these, because I wasn't happy how it was sitting. And I actually re-poured the clear I had in this cup back into the mould, and I've let that sit now for probably, I think it's about an hour now. It's been sitting and starting to just get gooey. So my idea is to let that just get a bit gooey so I can then put these small containers. I put the glittery stuff into these two small ones. Try and let them not heat up and cook too fast, basically, in there, so then I can float this glitter on top a bit better, because all the glitter was sinking to the bottom, or in this case the very top of his skull, and I wasn't liking the effect. So fingers crossed this idea works, where I'll be able to now take this resin, because it's gooey, but it's still runny, and I'm going to now make a layer, but a gooey layer basically on top. So fingers crossed that that's going to work, and that's what I'm going to try now. So I've got basically, I'll try and see if I can show you guys. It's basically clear. There's probably a few flakes in there. I wasn't worried about getting them all completely done. As you can see, some have floated to the top there, or sunken to the top, I should say, of the skull, so that's fine. But for the majority, I want them in that sort of middle part more. Anyway, let's just experiment and find out if this is going to work. So I've got my two little disposables. They've been sitting there, little pots with the glitter in them. Now I've hit them with the hot devil gun a couple of times when they had some bubbles. So hopefully I've got them all out. And I'm just going to now pour them in. Just gentle. I don't want to cause too much disturbance, basically. So I'm going to run it down the front of the mould. Now this has been sitting at the same time. This is the same stuff I mixed up. So I don't know if this is actually going to work, but I'm hoping it's now a bit gooier and it's going to sit a bit more in a layer, but not give me a line. We will see. And then I'm going to actually let this section then set. Hoping you can see what I'm doing. I'm sort of in progress here, so I can't sort of do much about the view. So here we go, a little bit more action then. Hopefully I get a bit more glitter through the middle of the actual skull by doing this. Then, as I was saying, I'm going to actually let this resin actually set before I put the rest in, which is going to use that microfiber. So I will probably let this actually go to nearly a hard stage, or at least to a very gooey next level. That is actually doing some bubbles, so I might have to hit that with a torch. Yeah. And put some at the back here. It's starting to go just about to that stage where it's not going to be usable. It's getting a bit gluggy. So I really can't let it sit any longer. So if it's going to work or not work, as far as giving me that layered look I want at this stage. Do or die. So hopefully it works. Okay. All right, so it's hard to see it from your end, but it is actually sitting where I want the glitter to sit at this stage. So I'm not going to stir, I'm not going to fluff around with it and poke at it, I don't think, at this stage. I don't want to muck around. Only thing I will do is pop those bubbles if I can. That is about all I want to do. No, it's not going to pop. Alright, so I might just let this sit for 5. Hopefully those bubbles will just rise up and then I can pop it. That's all I have to do. I don't think I can pop them otherwise. But yeah, otherwise I'm pretty much what I'm hoping for. I might be successful. My little experiment. So the couple of micro bubbles and a couple of bigger ones just here I want to get rid of. Ooh, a couple of big ones gone. Yes, success. A few more gone. Excellent. Alright, I'm going to give that 5, hit it with the torch again, and then I'm going to let those layers cure. And I've gotten it, the actual mould is now full to about 1/3. I'd say this mould is about 1/3 full of resin at this stage. So that'll give them an interesting texture, and then I'll probably have a think about how I want the rest of the actual design to look. So I'm going to have 1/3 where it's going to be clear and glittery. Then we'll have the rest of it just in the micro powder colour. Maybe that might look cool, or if I'll do 2 different colours or not. Or maybe I'll add a few of the golden or silver flakes. I'll have a little bit of a think, and then we'll come back and we'll add that next layer. But that will be a bit later on for me, but in a moment for you guys. Right, stay tuned for the next bit. Okay, so that has started to set. It's not completely set, but it has hardened enough to go to another layer. So I have found some really cool things didn't know I had, but I have got. Basically all these little trinkets and bits and pieces. I found these. These are little flowers, basically. It's in a little nail art kit, etc. For resining and so forth. So I'm thinking about putting some of those in the next layer. And I found some of these powders. I didn't even realize they were in that box of little goodies. And this is sort of a shimmery grey white colour. So I'm going to mix a little bit of that just to give it a bit of opaqueness, and float some of these in here as well. And hopefully I won't have a fully clear layer. I'll have a little bit of opaque, and hopefully I can still see the flowers. That's the game. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. Hopefully about another 90, I think, again, of the resin, and I'm going to fill up a bit more of the mould. I think you can sort of see a bit there. So that's my next step, and you'll watch me do that. Again, just using these silicone mugs. And I'm going to move that aside. And I'm going to weigh everything out again. Okay, so there is a little tiny air bubble I can find up in this corner here, so I'm a little bit disappointed with that. It's probably because I keep moving it, who knows. Whatever, I'm not going to fuss about it. It is what it is. I'm just experimenting with layers and colours and things like that. So I've separated all my resin out in pots so it didn't get too hot, And now I'm going to play around with adding some of these into one of these smaller cups, I think, and then I'm going to pour that on top of what I've got with the clear, and then I'm going to mix a little bit of the powder and then drizzle that on top. I'm hoping that the colours will sort of just fold and mix down into it, something like that. All right, I need some scissors. Seriously, of all the stuff I've got on this table, I don't have any scissors. Wow. Okay. Leaf keeps falling down. It's driving me crazy. All right, teeny tiny little scissors I've got on my desk. I've only got a little teeny tiny bag. I have to put these in a little zip bag or something. So yeah, I'm just going to put some in my hand to show you guys. There we are. So these are this little flat little double-sided printed flowers. I'm going to just mix some of them into the resin. These are just for that purpose. Into this pot, why not? They sort of float around and so forth. So I'm hoping they're going to give a nice another dimension. With a bit of a what was it? Day of the Dead type skull thingy. Look, maybe I was thinking, I'm trying to figure out how I could layer it or give it some dimension before I put that micro color in. And I was looking around, and then I remembered I had this whole box, and I'll just sort of show you that, of bits and pieces I bought. As I said, I've been buying all sorts of things for this sort of craft. I'm going to poke them in there. Can you see that? As I'm yabbering. And I thought, you know what? Let's have a look around what I've got. Surely I've got something. And I thought, yeah, why not? Let's add some of these as well. So, just for fun. See what they do. Because this is sort of really a test project, really, to see how things react in the resin and so forth. So I know what to do for other projects. So, whoops, there's some bubbles in there. I might have to hit him with the torchy before I go too far. Pop, pop, pop. Oh, too much. Stir up those little things. I think you get bubbles sometimes underneath these little bits and pieces you put in your resin too, so you've got to sort of stir them into each other. Get that movement. I think that's part of it. I don't know. That will do that. So I'm going to now, I think I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. Sorry, it's getting very late, so I'm just using all my inside lights the best I can at the moment. So all my little flowery bits and pieces have sunken down to the bottom. I'm going to bring my mould over here now that I'm working on. I think you can see all the pretty glitters and stuff in there. So they are sort of staying to those levels. I'm going to pour some of this in. Try and be careful with how I do it. There goes all the pretty flowers. Hopefully, because they've got a nice coating of resin on them, they will all sit in there nicely. Pop, 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 pop. That just come. It's kind of pretty, isn't it, in a cup like that? Okie dokie. Edges come, edges come. Pretty colours, lots of colours, lots of colours. This will give it a bit of colour. Alrighty. So the other one has been sitting for about 3 hours, I suppose, that other layer. The other resin is quite warm. I'm going to now just add, no, I'll leave those pots over there. I might use them as, so they're dirty pots. I might just put some of this, just the clear on top as well, just to push them flowers through. Wasn't much in that one. Let's scrape all the sides. going to be very interesting when I demold this one, how it all comes out basically. Give it a bit of a swizzle, try and break up the flowers a little bit, push them around. A bit more of the clear for this layer. That way I can just clean these pots up now. All the silicone ones. The others are just disposable. That should be enough. Flowers in on top. See if I can get another layer of flowers. What is that? Rubbish. Trusty tweezers to the rescue. Already too many are going to come out now. Okay, that's kind of cool. Oops. Okay, this is very organic again, taking its own shape. And now this is floating quite nicely on top of the other resin. So they've got a dry side, so I'm going to hope they're going to stay and do that. That one's a bit rubbishy, so they can come out. It's got a trashy edge. I don't like you. Let's see if you've got something better. There's a couple of bits of rubbish in this thing. Not much around that side because I can't see it. Let's leave it as that for now. So that's just showing you what I'm going to let dry this layer and how full the mould is now. I'm going to clean up these pots and then we'll come back and mix those. Okay, so that has been sitting for a while, so I'm going to now add a little bit of clear just to give that coating for that flowers. I think that will be a good idea. Hopefully this resin is still gooey enough to move out of the pot. Where is that towel? Got water on there. Okie dokie. I melted this little pot a little bit. Okay, so we're going to just pour a little bit of that down there. It's a bit goopy. Pour it straight on top. Hopefully don't sink the flowers too much. See how that goes. Be better to let it set directly, but I've got this resin, I'm going to just use it. I'm going to add a bit of this one. Now I need a little teeny tiny spoon. Should have one of those. Let's move that aside. Zoom out a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Yeah, it's very fidgety with gloves on. Okay. It's got a nice little sparkle. There's no film or anything on that, so it's just straight into it. So just a little bit of this just to give it some density to the colour. Just going to for this next layer. I'm just going to give it some grey tone. Sort of fine, like fine sand. So I'm not sure how much I need. I've got quite a lot of resin there. So I'm going to do about whatever that was, 3-4 scoops, a little pile like that. And I'll put the lid on so I don't spill it because there's not very much in this little container. They're like nearly like sample pots, really. All right, get me busy stick and just start mixing that through. Ooh, it's going to make shimmery, shiny stuff. It could be groovy. So this is giving the resin a really nice pearl look to it. So it's going to make the skull look really groovy. Now if this bleeds into where the flowers are, it's still going to kind of let the flowers show through, I think. Hopefully. Enough anyway. There's definitely some air bubbles in there, but I'm hoping with that colour going through it, they're not going to be too noticeable. Because this is really getting its temperature up now and starting to cook. So I really need to get it into the mould and let it start to settle. So then it can set properly and hard, and then I'll do the last layer of this project. Because that's really getting thick. Okay. But I think I'm pretty happy with how the powder has moved into that resin. Oh, I don't mind if it has a couple of chunky bits. I think that might add some texture. Alrighty. I might give it a couple of minutes to sit and then I'll hit it with the torch for some bubbles. Or some debubbling. But hopefully you can tell, even this awful lighting, that it's got a beautiful pearlized texture to it. Very shimmery. And I think that's definitely enough there, what I've put in for that amount of resin, to give it a nice sort of depth and opaque colour. Let's let them bubbles come up now. So this is giving the resin a really nice pearl look to it. So it's going to make the skull look really groovy. Now if this bleeds into where the flowers are, it's still going to kind of let the flowers show through, I think. Hopefully. Enough anyway. There's definitely some air bubbles in there, but I'm hoping with that colour going through it, they're not going to be too noticeable. Because this is really getting its temperature up now and starting to cook. So I really need to get it into the mould and let it start to settle. So then it can set properly and hard, and then I'll do the last layer of this project. Because that's really getting thick. Okay. But I think I'm pretty happy with how the powder has moved into that resin. Oh, I don't mind if it has a couple of chunky bits. I think that might add some texture. Alrighty. I might give it a couple of minutes to sit and then I'll hit it with the torch for some bubbles. Or some debubbling. But hopefully you can tell, even this awful lighting, that it's got a beautiful pearlized texture to it. Very shimmery. And I think that's definitely enough there, what I've put in for that amount of resin, to give it a nice sort of depth and opaque colour. Let's let them bubbles come up now. Okay, so that has set for a while. It's gooey but not hard. I was thinking it'd probably be better if it was set hard, but we'll see what effect we get. I think it'd be nice to have that nice clean edge, but we'll see. This is at a stage where it needs to be used or it's going to be lost. So here goes nothing. We're going to pour this in and see what kind of effect we're going to get from this. Alrighty. Now I'm going to try and position it so I can do this well as not knock everything over and have you guys see at the same time. So I might just reposition things a little bit better. And so see the mould, I can see the mould. We can all see the mould. So I'm going to try and pour it, I think, up this end and just hope it swims across nicely. Okay, here goes nothing. Run it off the stick. It's definitely pushing into the other stuff. It's like lava at this stage. I'm going to try not to push it in too hard, but it'll probably settle in hard, heavy. We'll see how it goes. Get it all out of the container. I think I'm just going to let it just do its own thing, maybe. This end of the mould. So this is really at the last minutes of being able to use this resin. It's getting really sticky, really thick. Needs to be used, or I'm going to lose it. So I was thinking about just putting it into little baby skulls, but I thought I want to know how much this is actually going to take to fill this whole skull up. So I'm sort of measuring as I go. So I'm going to pull that up the sides around the teeth, because I think that white colour would be cool around the front of the mould. So I'm going to pull that up across that. So I'm quite happy for this silvery pearl colour to stay to the front of the mould, around the face, like around the front, its teeth. I'm not going to push it right to the back of the skull. I think I'm just going to keep it up here and let it just sort of settle the way it wants to. Just keep it pulled up around there. Just let it pull around where it wants to go. A bit of a swirly thing going on in the back there. That might be kind of cool. Just I'm trying to get rid of that bubble, honestly, but yeah, so that kind of be cool. This end here of the mold, this far end, is still quite clear, so I'm liking that idea. It's going to stay that way, and I'm still filling up this end with this yeah, this shimmery pearl look. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to leave it alone, I think, at this stage. Bit there's just hooked on that bit. It's goopy. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm just going to check, keep an eye on it for bubbles for a little while. But that is pretty much it. Check on it for in about 5 minutes. Check for bubbles. I'll give it a little zap if it's got any bubbles. Then I'm going to let this thing sit overnight, and then in the morning I'm going to do the final layer. And I'm either going to use one of these micro colors, I think, and fill the whole thing up with that. Okay, we are back. It is the next day. I've let this sit overnight. Let's have a look at it. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. It's starting to set. It wouldn't be fully solid, but it's definitely starting to set. I'm definitely got some layers happening with the flowers, etc. I can see that in there, so it's looking really groovy. A little bit of the resin has sat up in the front there with the pearl look on the teeth, so I'm kind of happy about that as well. So I'm going to maybe, with a bit of luck, get sort of a, I don't know, a pearly, shiny mouth look. Hopefully a little bit of shine there as well. So anyway, it's getting quite heavy, but I have got, 180 grams of resin already in here. I'm going to now mix up again another 90 grams of resin, and I think I've got these two beautiful powders, as I showed you earlier in the video, and I think I'm leaning towards this one. I think it's really pretty. It is a red, a blue, and a purple chameleon color changing mica powder. So I'm going to mix that into this next lot of resin, and I'm going to pour that directly on top of what I've got. So that should sit as a second or third or fourth or whatever layer I'm up to now of resin. And yeah, so I should get a definite separation of layers of color or so forth. I've got some clear, with some glitter. They're clear with the flowers, again more clear than I have that pearlized look. And then I'm going to add this one. Now I've got those two over there. I'm going to use this one, this spoon. I don't know if you can see that powder, but it's absolutely gorgeous. All right, let's start mixing some of this up into the resin. I'm going to put that into this pot, am I? I think so. Oh, splat. I'm not sure how much I shall put in, so I'll just put 2. And use this stick that I mixed before. This is a very, very, very fine powder. Very gently going to mix that into the resin now. But yeah, I'm going to put that on top of the next layer of the skull. Basically, this is a very interesting colour. Trying to get it so I can catch the light properly. Very interesting. It's a very dark, shimmery burgundy with some little purple flakes, and it's a very brown sort of colour. I'm not sure how I feel about it at this stage, but hopefully once it dries in the mould, it looks a lot nicer, honestly. But we will see. We shall see. Hopefully I've got enough powder in there. I added some more additional bits because I put so much resin in this big container. It felt it was a bit thin when I was mixing, so I thought I'd add a bit more of the powder. When I first section I was doing there, it felt quite thick, so I added some more resin because I'm going to colour it all anyway, and I thought I'd just pop it all in the same big pot rather than mixing it in small ones. Probably not the best idea in one sense as far as bubbles and things, but anyway. Yeah, it's an interesting colour. So it's supposed to have a red, but I think it feels more like a browny colour to it than a red. Very interesting. Anyway, we're going to put that on the top of the mould. I'm going to bring that in. So that's what I've got so far. You can sort of see flowers, and as I said before, that pearl coating. So I'm going to pop this one straight over the top of what I've got. Here goes nothing. Whoa. Oh, there she goes. Everything's covered now. It's got sort of a ripply, glittery look going on. Okay, people, let's get that out of there. Look at that shimmer. So I'm definitely going to have to make another 90, I reckon. Another lot of resin once this layer dries. So I'm going to let that settle. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to put another layer, I think maybe of clear, and just put some gold flakes in it. I think that will look really cool for this next layer. So I might just do that. Just do a clear layer for the next lot, and put some gold flakes through it and see what that looks like. Hopefully that's kind of cool. Or I could just mix this up again and just put some more of the same on top and just have a full solid base. Whatever I do, I'll have to decide either quickly or not quickly. That's kind of groovy. I'm going to do some freehand for you in a moment, just so you can have hopefully a really good look. Everywhere I go, I sort of shadow the mould. So there we go. So I put 90, then 90, then 90. So what's that? 270, I think, grams so far of resin into this mould. Let's get hands free. Rightio. So that is that layer. And I am almost full. So whether I reckon another 90 would fill the whole thing, whether I just do that colour again and fill it so I've got just a nice big solid colour base, or I could put, wait for this to dry and then put another colour like a blue. That could also work really cool. Or as I said, I could do a clear, which I was thinking of doing a clear, and then putting some just gold flakes through it. It could be awesome as well. But yeah, that is this mica colour. Looks like a really bad mixed chocolate cake. It's me resin. I might have to scrape that out and try and get a little bit more out of there. So the colours doesn't change too much once you mix it. Ooh, that was stuck to me. I nearly had a heart attack then. I nearly knocked the powder over. So I'm hoping it settles well. Okay. I've got a big decision to make, whether to let that dry solid or just add more colour. But I will let you know very soon. We will see what I decide to do very soon. Alright. So our decision has been made. I've made up some more resin. This is going to be the last lot. Again, another 90 grams. And I've decided, after consulting with my daughter, the only crafty person I think in this household, we're going to go with another last layer of the same colour as what I just showed you, basically. So we're going to go back to this micro colour powder, and we're going to add that to this resin. I'll show you that. So this one's been stirred and sat and bubble popped and all that sort of fun things. So we're going to add some powder. Looks really groovy when you do that too. So I'm not sure how I feel about this colour, so it doesn't worry me if I use all the powder up for this particular project. Oopsie. When you focus on something close, it goes all wonky. I'm going to put the lid on the powder for now so we don't have any spillage. Now I've wiped out my other container using a baby wipe, and I popped it in my soapy warm water over there so it makes it easy to clean up later. Now we're going to start putting this powder through this resin. Now I'm thinking to myself that this should be enough here to finish off this piece and fill this mould, and then it'll be able to sit. And I'm going to leave it for a couple of days to make sure this resin sets nice and firm before I demold, because it's been a lot of work at this particular piece, so I want to make sure it's not going to be soft in any way, or I'm going to put any fingerprints or nasty things on the mold when I demold. So it will be sitting for a couple of days, but for you guys it'll be pretty much instantaneous. Now I've noticed when I put the mica powder in, a lot of the mini bubbles, micro bubbles and things like that, whatever you want to call them, seem to really navigate into this mix. Doesn't matter if I do it fast or slow. I did it very slowly or do it quite quickly. The very fine micro bubbles seem to navigate into the resin. I think it's mainly because I've got such that fine powder and the air's sort of trapping onto it. I've hit it with the gun a few times and all that sort of business, but I'm still getting a bit of a line around the edge of the mould where I'm getting some fine bubbles. So that's another reason why I want to peel the mould up now and try and reduce that line of bubbles and things like that in the mould. So that will, I think, ruin actually the finished piece if I have a really big definite line of little fine micro bubbles in the finish piece. So I'm going to continue to stir this for quite some time until I feel that it is well mixed. Then I'll let it sit to make sure that it's got no major bubbling, and then I shall pour it onto the last layer. Fingers crossed this is enough anyway for this mould. So it's been quite a lot of resin being used in this particular mould. Is a big mould. I haven't done much in this sort of craft, but this is definitely a very big mould for a beginner to go and have a crack at. And also doing layering, all sorts of things. So as I said, this is more just experimenting and having a look at what the resin can do and whatnot, and just learning as I go. I hope you guys are just enjoying the process as well. Okay, so that's coming together a little bit. You can still see different shades and so forth in the resin there from the powders. I think because it is a multicolour resin, I think that's going to happen. Multicolored powder, I should say. But I will try and mix them in a bit further. And hopefully then I can let this mould sit, and I will cover my work so nothing gets into it, and let it just sit for a couple of days to harden. Let's do this. Let's do it. Let's do it. Still bubbly, but I'm hoping that I can just get them out once I pour it in. I said I could have done a different colour by the time this has sort of been sitting, but we'll see how we go. Please fill the mould. Is that it? It's right on it. Yay. So I've had enough there with that lot to finish that pour of that mould. You can see it's really bubbly and very gooey. I'm really happy that it's actually full now. Thank God for that. Hit that with the fire, and then I'm going to let this sit for a little while, and then I'm going to cover my work. And yeah, I'll do more of this in a couple of days. I don't mind if it's got a few bubbles on the bottom. I can sand it off. Cool beans.